Imagine this. You walk into a dealership, the smell of new leather, the shiny cars, and that really friendly salesperson promising you the deal of a lifetime. They say, quote unquote, why buy when you can lease this brand new car for just $400 a month? Sounds pretty tempting, right? But what if I told you that this quote unquote deal of a lifetime could quietly cost you thousands more than you think? Today, I'm going to show you why leasing a car is like throwing money out of the window and how dealerships profit while you lose. So buckle up. We're diving into the hidden cost, psychological traps, and smarter ways to hit the road without breaking the bank. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror, and thanks for joining me today as we continue to work to improve the one thing that we can control, ourselves. Here at the Financial Mirror, it is not about the numbers and spreadsheets alone, but about transforming and educating you on money so that you can make smarter financial decisions. If this is the first time you are joining in, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified of all the new episodes as they are released. If you're listening to this on Rumble, don't forget to follow the channel and like the video. And on any podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. So today, I want to talk about leasing a car. So this all came up in a conversation. We were all talking about kind of various ways to, get new vehicles. Just at a dinner, we had a little back and forth. Got to hear just some of the thoughts people have about leasing vehicles and kind of how people begin to reason with themselves how that should go and why they should do that. But did you know that leasing a car can cost you thousands more than buying it outright? So on average, leasing costs 20 to 30% more compared to just owning the car. So you can look at this chart and see, this is just a very simple, I took this from Cypress Financial Planning. So thank you, Cypress, for putting this together, but I'm not sure who Cypress is, but a good example of basic principle of how leasing is more expensive than buying. So here, this is breaking out a 5-year term for buying and 6-year. Most leases are in 3-year terms. So kind of looking at that as 2 3-year terms, and retail cost of the vehicle is exactly the same, $28,000. No down payment on the lease, putting down $5,000 on the purchase. Just getting those monthly payments simply kind of equivalent. And then interest rate being 3%, total out-of-pocket payments, you are paying more slightly for the vehicle itself. However, we have to remember on the back end, your vehicle retains value, right? It does retain value. So you get to add that back because you still have that as an asset. You could sell it and reduce your total pocket expenses. And you end up with $19,000 spent on the purchase of this $28,000 vehicle versus $24,000 spent on the lease. That's a 30.29% higher cost for leasing than buying. But many with higher rising car prices are starting to think that leasing is smarter, the cheaper option. But dealerships don't tell you about the fees, the limits, the long-term consequences that are baked into those leasing contracts. But today I want to go over why leasing is a financial trap and how you can save thousands by choosing a few smarter alternatives. So let's dive into the numbers. Not going to talk too much about, looking at charts like that just, blind you, cover your eyes with just tons and tons of data. But I do want to show you a few and talk about some alternatives that can show you why leasing isn't as great of a deal as it seems to be. Leasing companies have tons of little tricks and tips up their sleeve that they're going to throw at the salesperson or in the contract that's going to kind of mess with you a little bit, but I want to go over that. So the first place that I wanted to start with, what are some of the key arguments when we think about leasing? What are some of the reasons why leasing is not the best of ideas? Well, the first place that we must look is the depreciation dynamics. So leasing companies, how they go about things is they calculate off of your payment based off how much the value of the car loses over time, right? That's the first place they start, is they want to go over the value of the car and how it kind of loses that value over time, plus adding in their profit. They profit during the car's steepest depreciation phase, right? The first 3 years. The first 3 years of owning a car is when your car's value loses the most from the MSRP, sticker price, out the door price, whatever you want to call that thing. That's when it depreciates the absolute most. And that's when they're profiting. So there is a ton of value to the leasing company to do these, right? Tons of leasing or of value to it. So I pulled this up. This is directly from a Toyota website, Southeast Toyota Finance. And it just not about fundamental or the fundamentals of lease payments or anything, but I just wanted to show you kind of how these costs come up. How do you come up with what the cost of a lease is? So they go through and they talk about all these different things, and I'm not going to bore you with, what residual value is and all these, but what I want to show you is this example. Here's an example of how they come up with that. So if you took a $25,000 car and you came up with kind of what is that residual value, like how, if you took a depreciation rate and all those pieces and said, what is the value of the car, kind of taking into account some residual value after the 3 years is up, taking in some calculated monthly depreciation cost, taking in how much they're physically making on renting you the car, taking into account monthly tax. A $25,000 car would cost you about $285 a month, right? Just under $285 a month. Over 36 months, those 3 years, you will have spent $10,000 on that car, right? So financing this same exact car for 60 months and purchasing it and spending $450 a month, that's about a 3% interest, $450 a month for this $25,000 car, you will have spent $25,000 plus $1,953 in interest, putting you at $26,953, and you own the car, right? And you own the car. For that same lease that you spent $10,000 on, you're going to then lease it again for 3 years to try to get you to the equivalent 5, and you will have paid nearly $20,520 in 6 years and still own nothing. You don't own that car. You must give that car back. So you've spent $20,000 to rent a vehicle. That's what you've done. If you would have bought the car and the car, let's just say, depreciated $10,000 to make math easy, that same paid off car, after 5 years, you would now have a $15,000 asset that will continue to depreciate. Let's not confuse this that cars are great investments. They're not. But it still has a value of $15,000, and it's in its slowest depreciation years at that point, right? 5 years and on, cars depreciate much slower than they do in those first 3 to 6, right? So when you lease, you are locked into a never-ending amount of payments until you, of course, buy a car. And if you buy a car, you will eventually pay it off. You will enjoy years of ownership without car payments. That they do exist. Life without a car payment does exist. So if that doesn't sound bad enough, let me talk about some of the restrictions that you have to add on your life just by leasing a car. Because there are true limits or, limitations that happen just by you leasing a car. So the first limitation that you get to enjoy is most leases limit you to around 10 to 15,000 miles annually to drive. And if you go over, you can expect to pay 15 to 25 cents per mile, right? So drive extra 5,000 miles over 3 years, that's an additional $1,500 in additional fees. These vary across multiple, leases out there. It all depends on how the contract is, but the lower your lease is, or the lower the mileage is, the lower the lease payment is, right? So they do sell higher mileage lease options, but those cost you. Those do cost you. But if you are about to go over your miles on your lease, think about it. There's a few things that you can do. One thing you can do is turn in the car early, right? Turn it in and have, there's some cost to get out of it, but there is an option for that. Turn it in. Another thing that you can do is you can buy the car, right? Just buy the car out. There's a cost that goes with that. You can trade the car at a dealership. You can pay the fee, or you can just stop driving the car, which doesn't sound that enjoyable, right? It doesn't sound that enjoyable at all. But those are just a couple things that you can do if you hit that mileage limit, all of which are not fun. None of those are fun. None of those. Stop driving your car. How are you going to get to work? What if you're on a road trip and you're having to worry about how much you can drive on that road trip because you still got a daily commute to go home to? This is all because of the mileage cap that comes with leasing vehicles. It's not convenient, it's not fun, and it's an additional thing that you have to be stressed about for no reason. Not a good place to be. Second thing that is a true limitation is there are penalties for wear and tear on your car. There are penalties for the wear and tear on your car. Leasing companies charge you for just minor little scratches. They charge you for small little dings. May have been grandma's fault that she bumped your door with her door at the grocery store. All of those things are your fault, not grandma's. So even normal wear and tear will start to add up cost and charges to you, all within your lease. These are not fun. If you own the car, sure, you can just get over it. You're probably going to just get over it with the lease if there's a small little ding. The only difference is you'll pay for that little ding versus with the car you own, you can get over it and figure out a time until you can fix it. Just the way it goes. If, one customer I know returned a car and got a bill for $800 just for a scratch on the bumper. It's a big deal, right? Just a small little scratch, $800. Not a good place to be. But here's the real kicker. Even after all of these costs, even after all these limitations, even after 6 years, 3 years, however many years of leasing, here's the true kicker. You still don't own the car. And for some people, they don't care. They're like, well, it's a depreciating asset. Why would I hold on to it? Well, that's a valid point that it's a depreciating asset, but why would I hold on to it? There's a lot of reason to hold on to it. When you think of it, the main reason is lack of ownership. Every dollar you pay for a lease goes to the dealership or that leasing company. After 3 years, you walk away with nothing. No car, no asset, no trade-in value, no sale value, no nothing. Nothing at all, except for you had a rented vehicle that you just spent a lot of money on. That's literally what you walk away with. Compared to buying, if you buy a car, you sell it after 5 years, you can recover a portion of what you paid. Is it still smart to sell it after 5 years? No, it's not. It's not. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But is it better? Yes, it is better. We saw it in the chart. Just the resale value alone drops the cost and makes it where you don't spend an extra 30% on the same car. If you decide to buy the car after leasing, you will pay more than its market value. Don't consider that option. I know the dealers love to throw it out. They love to say, well, you can just, if you're happy with the car at the end of the lease, you can just buy it out. Of course, that's an option. They would love for that to be an option. Because once they've calculated in that residual value, that depreciated value after your lease, they're taking into account all those steep depreciation years of the first 5, the first 3, when it's decreasing literally the most year over year. So leasing locks you into an expensive, one-sided deal with little to no flexibility. So if you think that leasing is affordable, if you think it's the best option, let's talk about some of the other little psychological tricks that dealerships use to hook, line, and sinker you right into another lease. The first place that they love to go is leasing companies love to emphasize low monthly payments. They do it. They put a sticker on the window that says, get this for $187 a month leased for 36 months, right? Love to do it. And they do that so they can distract you from the total cost, right? By talking about how much you can get it per month helps distract you from the real overall total cost that you spent on the vehicle. Imagine $400 a month sounds reasonable. It leads you, though, to doing the actual math behind that and say, okay, 400 times 36, you've spent $14,000 in 3 years on a car that you don't own, right? You own nothing, $14,000. You've burned the money. It's gone because you got to give the car back. You've got to give it all back. So that's one place that they get you. They give you this illusion of affordability. Like by just displaying the monthly cost, they give you this idea that you can easily afford this. This is so easy to fit in that budget. Yeah, like I know you're trying to get your finances together, but this is so easy. It's only $250 a month for 36 months. So that's kind of how they do that. Another thing that they do is leases are normally, they only come, or they tend to come, I'm not going to say only come, they tend to come in luxury trims only. That makes these features seem accessible. That lead you to overspending. That leads you to having things you really don't need, like the massage heated recline bed seats or something. I don't even know how this stuff comes anymore. Like I have no idea what comes on new vehicles. Have not shopped for a new vehicle forever. I'll be honest with you. I've never bought a new vehicle. If I'm totally honest with you, I've never purchased. I have no idea what it's like. I have no idea what it's like to buy a new vehicle. Not at one time in my life have I ever owned one. So it's not a thing that I do. But think about this. If you spent $50 a month upgrade over 3 years for these like seemingly necessary features, you've added another $1,800 to your costs, right? Just by going up $50 a month so you can get that luxury package with all the good fancy trim items. These tactics keep you locked in to costly cycles while the industry is continually to profit off of you, the consumer. So leasing companies love to resell your car. So as soon as that lease ends, man, they love it. They love it because you paid for all the depreciation. They took the value when it's starting to slow down in depreciation rate. They're going to take that car and they're going to resell it to somebody out there like me that's going to pay a really low price for that car that you took really good care of. Why did you take really good care of it? Because you had to pay for every single thing that you did to it. Scratches, bumps, dings, all of it. You paid for it for me to come and buy your leased car that you're now out of. That's how this whole thing works. They take you, the consumer that wants that new car, they get you into a lease, they make money hand over fist from you to then take your car on the back end and sell it after you paid for all the depreciation. You did, as the consumer. You did. They make all the money, all the residual value they make. Dealerships love leasing. They do. They love it. It's probably become one of the key components of making money in a dealership. I couldn't imagine people not enjoying it from a leasing environment. And me, I guess I have to say that I enjoy leases too, because I enjoy buying people's car that they took really good care of, right? Because they were going to pay for it if they didn't. And then all of a sudden getting to make a little money off of it myself, right? By not having to pay for 50% of the sticker value of the car. That's how this whole thing works. I'm telling you, these are ripoffs. Leasing cars are ripoffs. It's a total ripoff. It's a total sham. So what can you do? What can you do instead? Not buy a new car, right? Like, I'm not telling you to go out and buy a new car, but what are some options that can still put you in some of the common things people say, like, well, I don't want to buy used because I don't want something that is potentially going to break down. Common concern. What if I told you that certified pre-owned cars offers reliability and costs 30 to maybe even 50% less than the new car and potentially only be 3 years old, right? three-year-old car still has a lot of life left in it, and it avoids those steep depreciation drawdowns that buying new does. There is I pulled this from Consumer Reports, and should you buy a new certified pre-owned or used car? It really goes through a lot of these things, but the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about is most certified pre-owns are backed by an extended warranty, and it definitely helps add a little coverage to the car to make sure that the car you got doesn't have problems with it, right? Like maybe it has a 100,000 mile warranty on it. The car might only be 3 years old. So with things like that, like extended warranties and having some of that the years kind of put behind it, you could purchase a car and all of a sudden have a vehicle that's actually in pretty good shape. It could be in pretty good shape. That all comes from potentially somebody's old lease that you're buying. But the key point here is that a 3-year-old car has a lot of life left in it. A lot of life in it. But if you look at it, car depreciation, if we took kind of going back to our original little example of $25,000 car, you can see that, from this chart, you can see after year one, value has dropped depreciated 16%. Year two, depreciated 12%. Year three, 11%. Year four, 9%. Year five, 7%. So it really starts to become more gradual after around that third year, right? Around that third year time frame, the depreciation really starts to dwindle. But your residual value of your car, the $25,000 car, is sitting at around $11,000 at year five. That's a big deal. That's a big deal that a $25,000 car is sitting at $11,250 after 5 years. But even if you bought it after the 3, certified pre-owned, $25,000 car is only sitting at $15,000. And you may still have a warranty on it. But you're probably going to tell me, well, a 3-year-old car, I mean, there's a 100,000 mile warranty. I mean, it probably already has 100,000 miles on it. Well, what if I told you, according to Kelley Blue Book, in 2022, the average miles driven was around 14,489 miles? What if I told you that, right? What if I told you that? 14,000. That means that after 5 years, this car would only have about 72,000 miles on it. Plenty of life left to go. Plenty of life. 100,000 mile warranty potentially on a certified pre-owned. After 5 years, maybe it has 3 and it has much less miles, but even after 5 years, 72,000 miles are on this car, just basing it off average miles driven. That means that if you bought a used car, right, it potentially doesn't even have 100,000 miles on it yet. According to Progressive Insurance, which I would say they have a pretty good track record of knowing how many miles the average car has on it, the average car lasts around 200,000 miles, right? And sure, on the back end, maintenance costs could get a little higher, right? Could. But if you bought a used car with 72,000 miles on it, it would cost roughly half as much as its brand new counterpart, and it still has roughly 8 years left driving on it. 8 years left. That is bananas. You spend half as much money for the same car, buy the car 5 years old, and it's still got 8 years of life left on it. Come on. It does not get better than that. Keeping a car 8 to 10 years, 13 if it can make it 200,000 miles roughly, maximizes value, eliminates payments, and truly enables you to start to build wealth. Because buying a car is one of the worst investments that you can make, that everybody has to make, right? And I say that because you have to have a vehicle to get around, to go make money, to go make a living. You've got to have a vehicle. But nobody told you it has to be the most beautiful, luxurious vehicle, right? There's one factor that needs to be taken into consideration when buying a vehicle, and that's reliability and track record, right? What's the track record of this vehicle? Years and years of good quality vehicles. And what is the reliability of this vehicle? What does a professional, what does a subject matter expert tell me about this vehicle? Specific vehicle. Has it had problems? Has it not? And the internet and all these companies like Carfax is making that so much easier to have that data accessible to you. So I just want to tell you that there is so much that goes into purchasing a vehicle. There is. But I want to encourage you to take a moment and think about this. If you go into it and you need a new vehicle, think certified pre-owned. Think used car. Certified pre-owned does offer the kind of the in-between between used and new. It does. You're going to pay a little more, but you're going to have a better dose of reliability more than likely. There are great used cars out there. And if you are in a financial pinch, if you are trying to really propel yourself forward, I could buy 2, maybe even 3 used cars for the same price as one new. Right? So let's say it breaks down and you pay cash for a $2,000 car, $3,000 car, $5,000 car. It breaks down. You could buy 3 of them for $15,000 if you spent $5,000 each. 3 of them. Right? Like if they last you 2 years each, you've made it 6 years and you spent $15,000, right? And that's kind of the conversation I would be having. Do I really want to buy this cheap of a car? Do I want to pay a little bit more and get something that has a higher chance of reliability? Maybe, right? And that's a good conversation to have. But having the conversation of, should I buy this new car? That's not the conversation to be having, right? Used or certified pre-owned are still great vehicles that have tons of life left in them. Tons of life. So I wanted to show you this, and I kind of wanted to end here, but I want to show you this little chart that I found. And I found this chart on Capital One's like auto website, Auto Navigator, whatever. But it's a flow chart for buying or leasing a car. And here's what I wanted to show you about this, is that every single choice that leads to leasing in this flow chart all point to a major dose of consumerism. All point to habits that are not wealth building, right? Do you want a new or used vehicle? Okay. That decision, you could say it not really points to one or the other, but I would say anything, if you have the option to buy something used and it be cheaper, that's a more wealth building habit. Okay. But let's say it isn't. Let's just go to the next. How many miles do you plan to drive per year? 10 to 12,000 or 15,000? Maybe not a wealth building deal, but still stemming off the used or new. Okay. How long do you expect to keep your car? People that are building wealth are not expecting to keep their car for 2 to 3 years. People that are building wealth are going to drive that car until it breaks because they don't want to go buy something new when the thing they've got still works, right? Not a wealth building habit. Do you plan to always have a monthly car payment? Not a wealth building habit. If you say yes to that, not a wealth building habit. Are you more comfortable renting or owning? I don't know. How do you feel about your house, right? Like everyone should be trying to work towards owning a home. But let's not confuse and say, well, if you're telling me it's okay to rent a home, then it's okay to rent a car. I'm not telling you that because we're talking a $300,000 to $500,000 purchase versus a $25,000 purchase. We're talking about an asset that gains around 3% in equity a year versus an asset that is losing 16% in the first year of having it, right? And only goes down, right? Not the same comparison. So let's not get on that one. So comment away down there, but I'm telling you, it's not the same. So I'm not telling you that. What matters you more, luxury or practicality? I guarantee you every person that's on a wealth building journey cares more about things being practical than things being luxurious. Just going to happen. After a few years, does your car usually look like a used car or like new? Well, most people that are on a wealth building journey are buying used cars. So they're not buying anything that's ever looked new, right? Just some really good used cars. Do you like doing minor repairs yourself? I think a lot of people on wealth building journeys are trying to do as many things themselves as they can before hiring a professional, right? Just one of those things. And you someone who always wants the latest technology translates to, are you someone that always wants to upgrade everything in your life, even if what you have still works? Not a wealth building habit. So just a little chart I saw, but it's just a highlight to say, like, this is how people are viewing this. And it's truly becoming tough. It's becoming tough to have those conversations. But in all honesty, with how much vehicles are becoming, I think people are gravitating to leases because maybe it's the only way they can afford the vehicle that they want, right? That dream vehicle. But I would tell you, start setting your money aside, start investing, start building a sinking fund that allow you to buy what you want. But drop a comment below. If you've got other smarter ways that you've figured out how to buy your vehicle, get your transportation, drop a comment below because I'd love to hear other smart ways people are figuring out how they can get access to the vehicle they need while not foregoing wealth building habits. So remember, every dollar you save on transportation is a dollar closer to your financial freedom. So choose wisely. But thank you for watching. If you like the video, don't forget to share the video, subscribe to the channel to continue to get more tips on taking control of your money and living smarter. So till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.